We interrupt our normal program. Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period.
This station will continue to stay on the air throughout the alert period to bring you authentic information. Telephone service to your home may be cut off. If you can plug in your radio in the basement, take it with you. Use a portable radio set if you have one.
Recently, TID Radio reached out and asked if I would do a review of this TD-H3 Plus. And in episode 42, I did a high-level overview of the previous version of the TD-H3, which is this radio here. And so I agreed to do it because I thought it'd be a good opportunity to see what's new with the Plus compared to the previous version. After going through the specs and experimenting with the radio, it looks like the TD-H3 Plus shares a lot of the same features as with the previous version. And as you can see, the form factor appears to be, pretty much the same. It has Bluetooth connectivity for programming through the Oddmaster app on your smartphone, and it also operates on the same frequency ranges as well. Of course, if you don't want to use the Oddmaster app to program the radio, you can use Chirp as well. But there is one change to the frequency ranges on the TD-H3 Plus, and that is it's able to transmit on the 1.25 meter band. However, if you want to use this band, you'll need to enable it through the menu. It's menu item number 39, and basically you can go in there and turn it on and off. But probably one of the biggest changes from the previous version is the increase in both CPU speed as well as storage. And so as you can see, they've got, as part of their advertisement, the differences in the previous version versus the Plus, and they're just showing you a graphic of what that change in CPU speed is. But basically, the previous version had a CPU speed of 30 megahertz with a storage capacity of 1 megabyte, while the Plus features a CPU speed of 240 megahertz and a storage capacity of 128 megabytes. And the Plus also has, SMS functionality. And basically, it allows you to send a text message to another TD-H3 Plus. Although I haven't tried this feature because I don't currently have access to another Plus, so I can't report on how user-friendly that process is. You can also use the wireless radio replication functionality to clone the frequencies from one Plus to another. And another change, in this version is it also has a customizable display. And some of the other changes I've noticed is the Plus has a different menu layout. And if you want to change the operating modes, the options for that have changed as well. So regarding the operating modes, the previous version, which is this radio here, actually has 3 different modes for amateur radio, GMRS, and then a third option titled normal to unlock the transmit capability for amateur radio and GMRS. So let me show you what that looks like really quickly. So if you hold down the push to talk and the star key and then power the radio on, you'll see this menu come up, and you've got ham, GMRS, and normal. So if you were to select number 1, it's going to restrict your transmit capability to just the amateur radio bands, which on this radio, it's 2 meter and 70 centimeters. And then if you were to select 2, then same thing applies. It's going to restrict the transmit capabilities to just the GMRS frequencies. And then if you select number 3, normal, it's going to allow you to transmit on both the amateur radio bands that I mentioned as well as GMRS. So that's the previous version. And then on the Plus, if you do the same thing, hold down the push to talk and the star key and power the radio on, you get the same menu, but as you can see, it's changed. So you've got one for ham. So if you were to select that, it does the same thing as in the previous version. It's going to restrict your transmit capabilities to those amateur radio frequencies. And then 2 for normal. So that allows you to basically transmit on amateur radio bands as well as the GMRS frequencies. So there's a change in that menu. So just be aware of that. If you've already got the previous version, and then you go into the Plus, and you see that's the difference there. So it's important to note that each time you change the mode, you will be resetting the radio. So if you had previously programmed the radio, that data is going to be erased, and then you'll just need to rewrite the programming information to the radio. And programming your radio is pretty easy if you're using either Chirp or the Oddmaster app. And as I mentioned, it can be done via Bluetooth with a programming cable through the accessory port on the side here. And it just uses a Kenwood style connector. And as with the previous version, the TD-H3 also has a USB-C charging port, and that's built into the battery here on the bottom. The previous version has the same thing, and it looks like these radios are actually pretty much dimensionally the same. You can change the you can swap the batteries between the previous version and the new one. So if you've got the older one, you can swap those out. There's no problem with that. But basically, one of my personal preferences when considering a radio is having the option to charge my radios in the field. So I do look for this USB-C charging port, whether it's built into a battery or built into the radio. But the previous version of the H3 has 199 channel slots, and that's the same as the H3 Plus. And the frequency ranges on VHF are 144 to 148 megahertz, and UHF 420 to 450 megahertz. And as I mentioned earlier, the Plus version can operate on the 1.25 meter band, which is 220 megahertz. So like the previous version, it can also receive the airband frequencies. And in fact, before I got a hold of this Plus, I used my old H3 to monitor the airband frequencies when I was at the Great Reno Balloon Race earlier this year. The keypad, it's backlit, and it appears to have a pretty decent battery life. The speaker sound seems to be good quality in that everything coming through is audible. The price point of the Plus on TID Radio's website is currently $35.99. And as with the previous version, the Plus does seem to have a pretty good battery life, as I mentioned a moment ago. It's advertised as having a 2,500 milliamp hour capacity. And one of the things I've always liked about the H3 is the form factor. Occasionally when I go on trips, it's a great radio for traveling, and I usually take it with me. And if I need to do any programming on the road and look up, repeaters in my area, it's pretty convenient for that with the Oddmaster app. However, I will say one downside of the form factor is if you're in cold weather and you're wearing gloves, the buttons are pretty small. So if you're trying to program this radio manually, it could be a little bit difficult to find the correct button that you want with gloves on. My first TID radio was the H8, and since then I've been a fan of their products. I think their price point for the H3 is competitive when compared to offerings from other manufacturers. One thing I would like to see, though, in future offerings is some level of ingress protection. The H3 Plus, to my knowledge, doesn't have an ingress protection rating. I was looking through their website. I didn't see anything regarding that, so I assume it doesn't have it. But that's another feature that I look for in a radio, along with the USB-C charging. Regarding the ability to charge in the field, usually what I do, and I've shown this a few times in other videos, but I usually run these little folding solar panels. You can just get these on Amazon, and they've got, I don't know if you can see it very well, but they've got a little USB-A and USB-C charging port, as well as a little barrel connection. And I usually plug those into my backup battery banks and use that to charge my gear in the field. So I'm glad that they've incorporated that into the design. But I think ingress protection is a nice to have and not necessarily a requirement. But I do take my radios out to environments such as the desert, where a lot of dirt, debris, and condensation can get into my gear. And I think just having that extra layer of protection would be preferable. But with all of the features that the Plus offers, $35.99 is pretty hard to beat if you're looking for a serviceable radio that you can program on the fly using a smartphone app. One of the other things that I do like about this radio is it does have a Kenwood style connector. And so I usually run my radios with electronic ears. And so I've got a little Kenwood connector that plugs into the radio. And then there's a wiring harness that connects to my ears. And so it's just, this is more of a personal preference, but I like that it has this connector on the radio. It makes it convenient for me. But I think, I don't know, lastly, one of the things that I probably don't care for, and this really isn't unique to TID radio or this radio in particular, it seems a lot of manufacturers are doing this, and this is probably just another personal preference, but I've never needed or used the flashlight on my radio. And I don't think it's needed. And if I had to choose between having a flashlight on my radio or an ingress protection rating, I would choose the latter. As far as just some things that came in the box with the radio, just pretty standard stuff. Got a belt clip. One thing that is new compared to the previous version is this Bluetooth mic that comes with the Plus. So that's kind of cool. I've been testing this out, and so far it works pretty well. And they gave me a couple of USB cables, and then just a little charging block. One thing I have noticed is the manual seems to be a little bit better than some of the previous ones that I've seen, and I'll show you what I mean. So compared to some of the other manuals that I've seen, they do give you a little bit better of a step-by-step guide through illustrations in their manual on how to operate the radio, as well as programming through the Oddmaster app. So I thought that they did a better job in this manual compared to previous ones that I've seen. Lastly, I want to check the power output on this radio on 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and 1.25 meters. So the first one will be 2 meters, and we'll test the power output on that. And it looks like I'm getting 4.6 watts on 2 meter, and we'll try 70 centimeter. And it looks like that one is 4.6 watts. And then the last one I'll try is the 1.25 meters. So on 220, I'm getting 2.7 watts. Wow, actually it looks like between 2.6 and 2.7. Anyway, so that's what's new with the H3 Plus. It is similar to the previous version, but it does have a lot of new features which are pretty cool, which I think you'll find useful. I like that it does transmit on 220, And I do like the updated menu. It is a lot easier to program a frequency, in my opinion, and just a little bit more, I guess, user-friendly as far as navigating as well. Not that the previous version was really that difficult to navigate, but I just, it seems like they simplified it. I've also put out a couple of shorts on how to access the operating modes, as well as how to program a simplex frequency. So you can check those out. Anyway, hopefully this video was helpful, and that's all I have for this episode. Thank you to TID Radio for sending this TD-H3 Plus to review, and I'll catch you all in the next one.